we billed it as Abe Partridge, and anytime I put together a little band and try to call them the Purdys, P-U-R-D-Ys, and so these are the ugliest Purdys we ever had. Y'all give it up for Wesley Smith over here on whatever you call that. He's playing some homemade contraption. And my little buddy Austin Harper over here on the sad machine. There's a story old that's often been told of how our Savior died. As they nailed his hands, he cried, "They don't understand." As the blood rolled from his side, how could you refuse him now? How could you refuse him now? How could you turn away from his side? With tears in his eyes, on the cross there he died. How could you refuse Jesus now? As they nailed his hands, well, as he hung there on the tree, he prayed for you and me. There was no one his pain to ease. Before he died, he faintly cried, "Father, forgive them, please." How could you refuse him now? How could you refuse him now? How could you turn away from his side? With tears in his eyes, on the cross there he died. How could you refuse Jesus now? How could you refuse Jesus now? Well, that was unrehearsed and went on pretty good. That's why you call them the Purdys, because they're pretty good. Usually I drive around, I got a couple sisters that play with me, and so that's the Purdy element, but they couldn't make it today. One of them's pregnant, and the other one had another gig. And so, the Uglies. Anyway. Yeah, one of my biggest flaws, and I think I learned it from the military, was if I like you, I just rag you to death. People I don't like, I don't even talk to. So, if I like you, all I do is insult you. So this is the Sunday service. I'm going to admit our failings, you know.
He must like me a whole lot.
Oh, okay, I think this is key. Let's try to put her in A. That was a Hank Williams song. This one is another one. I don't know. This is a Snow Church song. It's called Farther Along. Tempted and tried, we're oft made to wonder why it shouldn't be thus all the day long, while there are others living about us, never molested, though in the wrong. Farther along, we'll know all about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine, and we'll understand it all by and by. When death has come and taken our loved ones, it leaves our home so lonely and drear. But we shall meet them in that bright mansion, and we'll understand it all by and by. Farther along, we'll know all about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine, we'll understand it all by and by. Yes, we'll understand it all by and by. Thank you. Well,
Can you pull the vocal out of this monitor, please?
y'all, so I left home when I was 18. Well, yeah.
There's a lot of it.
Less of a. I ended up moving to Bell County when I was 25 years old in the mid 2000s and took a little church down off of Cumberland Avenue there in Middlesboro. And when I came up, I split the church on the first Sunday night. I was there. Sunday morning was great. Sunday night, well, I run off about 30 of the 60 that was there, and they were all kin, and I made one of them mad. We didn't take no money or nothing from them, so I was working. I got a job. I worked. I think in the 2.5 years I lived here, I worked about 5 jobs. Because I had to find one where you didn't have to work on Wednesday nights or Sundays. And I didn't have no skills to offer anybody except for preaching. And that's some people would debate. I asked me if that was even a skill at all. Maybe more like a curse or something. Anyway, I started pastoring there, and over the next 6 months, I ran them 30 people off. And then I was just preaching to Kathy, and she was always there. I couldn't run her off. I tried to. She hung around. And, my little daughter there, Abby, she was just a little baby when we moved up here when Abby was just I think she was about 2 months old, and it would be us in there, and then over the next 6 months to 8 months, I built that church back up, and we started. We got to where we were running about 60 again, which this church was tiny. I mean, 60 people was standing room only, and it was going good for about 6 months, and then I split that one too, and then about the 30 that remained, I ran them off again slowly, and then I got back to being Catholic again. I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do something else for myself, and which was a hard and an agonizing thing that I ended up spending. Months and months up here. It really became a very dark part of my life, and then my relationship to my faith and to God and everything like that really went up, and it kind of went up in smoke, and then for years I just it was something I really didn't want to think about. I'd just rather not think about it and just try to move on. I left here. When I left here, I pastored for 2.5 years, and we lived down there in Middlesboro, and whenever we went to pack, my wife, we had 2 young children. It was just me and my wife, Kathy, and our 2 kids, and I went and got a U-Haul so we could go back to Mobile, and there wasn't even no church people come help us, but our Mormon neighbor came over and helped me load the U-Haul, and that was a lesson to me in itself right there. And we packed up, moved back to Mobile. I joined the military so I could make a living, and try to put it out of my mind for a while. But then I started coming back up here in the pandemic, and it was weird the way it worked, because I came here. If you go down there, here I am talking, but hey, this is a Sunday service, so. But when I came here, it was weird the way I came here. I came to Bell County for God, and I ended up finding art. This is where I started writing songs. I started painting here in this county. And through creating art is where I kind of discovered my true calling, I think it is. And then, about 15 years later, God brought me right back up here for art. And I came up here for art to record in the Serpent Handling churches and make that podcast. And then it was like I found God all over again. And then John Grace and these guys, they've been so good to give me this little time where I get to get to do this. I mean, this is the only time of the year this kind of thing happens, but I tell you, this is one of my favorite things I get to do every year, and to think that I get to have a Sunday service up here in the same county where I pastored all those years ago. It's one of them things. It's like a full-blown circle, you know, and that's the way sometimes life works, you know. And I'm just glad enough that I got to take that journey. I wouldn't trade it. There's an old song that says, I wouldn't take nothing from my journey now. That's me, buddy. But anyway, enough talking about that. Here's a song I wrote to God. It's called Love in the Dark. It's in E. We got keyboards. We got cigar boxes with strings on them. We got a little bit of everything. Well, I once saw your light on a revival hill, a sinner's delight, as I begged my heart to still. And I walked out into the night on a teenage thrill. I never meant to close my eyes till your light grew dim. And now, Lord, I ain't asking for a brand new start. I just need your direction. I'm finding love in the dark. You see, I went out to disciple, to set the mountains ablaze, and I had every answer. I knew just how to be saved. I thought I wanted to be a preacher. Maybe I just wanted a stage, 'cause I was called to the floor and I didn't have nothing to say. And I used to quench my candle. I used to pray for a spark. And now I'm content in the struggle of finding love in the dark. In my youth, it was a waste on the ancient scrolls when I decided not to hang on the great unknowns. It ain't that I've been looking toward the grave. Lord, I look to hope. I'm just praying that the rivers of grace do downward flow. 'Cause your light, it ain't always shined. I've never figured out my heart.
just feeling through my midnight, finding love in the Well, let's see here. Here's a tune I wrote. I had one of them. I called her Granny. I know up here people call them meemaws and stuff, but I called mine Granny. And she was from the town. Thank you so much, darling. I'll give it up for Kathy Partridge. We met because I was on my way to go coon hunting with some coon dogs, and I saw a pretty girl sitting by herself on a bus, and that was about 25 years ago. And I've been a preacher, and I've been in the military, and I've been whatever this you call this, and she's been the same person the whole time. Anyway, I had the sweetest grandmother. I mean, she was the same if there ever was one. And she was just a beautiful person in and out. She was struggling with her weight in the 1940s in Alabama, and the doctor told her to take up smoking to curb her appetite. And she started smoking when she was 14 years old, and she smoked her whole life until she found out, that she had lung cancer, and she passed. And she passed when I was up here pastoring. I left here one day and went down to her funeral after I got off of work, and but she was one of the sweetest ladies that ever lived, and she loved Christmas. And my dad was the oldest of her 6 children. And we used to go up to Andalusia, Alabama, and we'd all gather. I mean, there was way too many people than was supposed to be in a house like that. It was built up, like on rocks. And the old house was, and me and my cousins would go run around. They was like a loop you could take: living room, dining room, kitchen, living room, dining room, kitchen, and we'd all go run through there. And the floors would be bouncing. And Granny had all, women that grew up, well, maybe not all women, but a lot of women that grew up through the Depression. They had a love for knickknacks. And my Granny loved knickknacks. She had porcelain knickknacks and little statues, and every Christmas she'd get all of her knickknacks. She called them her Purdys, actually. She got all of her Purdys. She didn't have one that looked like Austin. But she'd put them up for Christmas, and then she would have Pawpaw bring down her Christmas Purdys, little snow villages and little snowmen, and we had so many manger scenes, and Santa Claus and then my pawpaws, because there were so many of us grandkids, he would go get all of the stuff that he put all these big old plastic things that had the light in them, and we had about 5 or 6 Santa Claus displays. They'd have reindeer on the roof. They put reindeer into pecan trees next to the house. We had Santa Claus. We had multiple manger scenes with the baby Jesus and everything. It was like it was everywhere. And the newspaper in Andalusia would come take pictures of my granny and pawpaw's house every year. And I remember one of my best memories, and Calvin, I ain't supposed to be doing that, but one of my best memories was, going up there when I was a kid and just being with my granny on Christmas. But 'cause she loved and she had a real deep faith, And it was the kind of faith that made you love everybody. So that's the kind of faith y'all have. But anyway, here's a song I wrote for my granny. It's called Breaking Up Christmas. Let me tune this real fast.
Hey, Daddy, can you pull some acoustic out of this monitor too? Oh, Lord. Thank you.
This will be our last show with all here.
Breaking up Christmas, the sound that wrapping paper makes. As it's shoved into a trash bag with shirt boxes and Scotch tape. We used to save the bows for Granny. We made sure they kept their shape. And she would keep them in her closet to reuse on our birthdays. And now away in a manger, oh Lord, it seems so far away. When you're staring at your cousins and you can't find the words to say, but how about them tires? And God knows Granny was a saint. And now we're breaking up Christmas. So happy holidays. We're breaking up Christmas. We're watching college football games. We're eating leftover dressing. It's always better the second day. And Paw cusses Congress while my nephew sneaked the cake. They said it was Granny's recipe, but we all know it ain't the same. And now them angels we'd heard on high, Lord, now they barely speak. I believe they left with Granny, and this void is now in their way. And this is a fine button-down cousin. Thank you, but do you happen to have the receipt? And now we're breaking up Christmas. So happy holidays.
after all that wildness, which is some of my favorite wildness. After I quit preaching up here, I went back to Mobile, joined the military, and then it was about 5 years later they sent me off to participate in a war. And that was in 2013 and 14. And then that became another big ditch that I fell into. And here's a song I wrote about it. It's called Western Stars. We were praying on Sundays, God, family, and country, and the devil we never consider. The strength of our youth and our sharpness of tooth was tempered by a Holy Spirit. But here under the sun, you know the weight of a gun, it rests easy on the young man's shoulder. So we marched past the graves when Uncle Sam called our name, and we became what he calls heroic. Soon the terror of a kill, it got lost in a thrill, and we'd laugh as the devil would tempt us. For God was on our side, yet inside we cried and we doubted he'd even forgive us. For mercy goes far 'neath these old western stars as the blood dripped from our fingers. At least that's what we're told, as another man's gold got loaded into our coffers. This morning we raged at the dawning of day as we sat lone and idle. A white morning dove, it flew down from above, and it mounted on my buddy's rifle. And in silence we sat as our hearts turned to black, and my buddy, he pulled the trigger. And when the gun smoke dispelled, we found our souls in hell, and the devil much more than a tempter. Yes, the devil much more than a tempter. Yes, the devil much more than a tempter. Let's see here, what we're gonna do now. I tell you what, I should have been the one opening up for Sister Ditsy Rose. That was a special thing there. I was just thinking, don't want to tell you what you've been doing, my guitar.
As I said, y'all give it up for Austin's last show. I'm joking. Austin's got to put up with it. Well, I'm going to make him put up with me as long as he feels like he can't put up with me. We're about to head out. I don't know, some of y'all are from all over the country. And, me and Austin's going to be driving from Alabama to Texas to Wisconsin and New York, back to Alabama in July. So if you live somewhere in that big long, we'd love to have y'all come out to a show. We're taking Jack Barksdale, a young songwriter out of Texas. He's 18 years old. I've known him since he was 12, and he's like a little savant. And he's the youngest person I ever listened to where I was like, man, I wish I wrote that. I was over in Europe. I think it was 6 years ago. I was in Europe, and I got a phone call from this festival that I was coming back home to play. They said, hey, we got great news for you. You're gonna be playing with this little kid who's 12 years old from Texas in a writer's round. I was like, no, I ain't. I was like, I ain't doing that. You know, that's just no. You know, it's just the wrong vibes. And they're like, no, he's really great. And I was like, I'm not playing with 12-year-olds. I was like, we can do sets. So he can play and then I can play. But I don't want to play with a 12-year-old. And I didn't know nothing about him. And then I got there and I watched the show and I was like, oh man, this isn't a standard issue 12-year-old. This is like a brilliant savant. And so we became friends. And he's one of my biggest fans as well. We were hanging out in Florida back in February and he pulled out his phone and he had a file on his phone that contained everything that I'd ever released in any fashion or form with and I was like, I don't even have some of these recordings. Like, can you send me that? And so he's a good boy, and I'm proud to be taking him on his first tour. But anyway, if y'all want to come see us, we'd love to have you. Maybe we can convince Wes to come along with us. That would be fun. What you doing in July? You know? We'll talk about this later. Well, that concludes the gospel portion of the show. Now we'll just play other stuff. How about that? We'll play some Alabama Sky. I put out a record in 2023, and this was the single on it. And, they started playing it on country music television, the video we made for it, and which was a very strange and unusual thing for somebody like me to be on CMT because my TikTok following is negligible. And they started playing my music video, and then the rest of my record came out, upon which there's a song called Pop Country is for Posers. And country music television don't play my songs on their television. We were young and in love in Alabama, but it wasn't Birmingham, it wasn't Mobile. So we were nowhere, dreamers with a blank stare, running lost highways through the cotton fields. You'd slide over on my bench seat, you'd make a joke and poke fun at me just because I kept a Bible on the dash of my truck. And ain't that I read it much, it was really just there for looks and young love on lost highways. We needed the love. 'Cause isn't it something how young love can turn to nothing? Testament, and we were laughing at tomorrow and grinning through the night. Do you remember when we wandered, go floating down the Escatawba? We wasn't really doing nothing but passing time and running from the knowledge you were soon to leave for college, splashing on the creek banks and trying not to cry. 'Cause isn't it something how young love can turn to nothing if you add a little distance and time passes by? It's a shame we had to grow up and couldn't stay in the moment when our days were long and our passions were high. Well, I helped your daddy move you into the dorms in Tuscaloosa. You better not forget me, you whispered in my ear. I couldn't smile, so I faked it. We both knew I'd never make it, even if I found the money to see you up here. 'Cause isn't it something how young love can turn to nothing if you add a little distance and time passes by? But I always will remember the summer that we spent together, them innocent nights beneath the Alabama sky.
You got this weird instrument. Let's play some weird music. Your brother made that, right?
My brother made
Homemade instrument. Let's make something weird. Let's see what's weird. We have this weird.
Me and Austin was down playing in Virginia was it last week? I can't remember. But we got up on the stage in one of those rounds, you know, where everybody just kind of never met each other, but you play together. And yeah, I've done a few of those, and usually, you know, I'm the weirdest guy there, you know. And, but at this one, I was not the weirdest guy there. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm the straight guy now. What do I do? You know? How do I do that? Unfortunately, I only know how to do one thing. But it was awesome. It was fun. I don't think so. So here, let's do this one. Well, we just played in this key. Oh well, who cares? Here's a new song called "You Can't Be a Cowboy in Atlanta." Is that where it did, D? Let's move her up, D. Get that intro in there, buddy.
Oh yeah. All right. 1, 2, 3.
Well, I wish I had some nudie suits like Porter's, Hanks, or Graham's. I dress up my band real cute, but them things cost least $1,000. I tried to don a cowboy hat, but they don't fit right on my head. And anyway, it seems the real cowboys are a couple generations dead. It's hard to write a country song in this city where I live. So I listen to old Solid Gold and watch Western films instead. I wished I'd rode the lonesome rails like Jimmy Rogers did. I'd make the blues of all my tales and yodel through the traffic jam. But you can't be a cowboy in Atlanta. But I reckon we could dress up and pretend, with bandanas and pearl snaps and bolos and leather chaps. And when folks look at us funny, we'll just grin. I'd like to run a wild stallion up the middle of 85 and climb a concrete canyon, watch those city folk going wild. Tuck a long piece of straw into the corner of my smile, and I'll laugh as they run raw, then ride off in the ride. But you can't be a cowboy in Atlanta. Have you seen the price of real estate? Every cow needs an acre, and now these acres all are sacred. At least developers bid them up that way. No, you can't be a cowboy in Atlanta, but that don't mean that one day I won't try. You'll look out toward the sunset and see my silhouette like the Marlboro Man against the city skyline. Yes, you'll look out toward the sunset and you'll see my silhouette like the Marlboro Man against the Atlanta skyline. We play a couple more here. Thank y'all so much for coming out and being with us this morning. And y'all tell John you had a good time, so he'll have me come back and do it again next year. And, how many of y'all was here last year? Yeah. How many of y'all was here the year before last year? All right. Well, that's good. Yeah, we've had a great time every single time we've done it. And by the way, last year we had our friend David Childers come out and with his band, the Servants, and of course Andrew Hanklin he's back here today. He was here with his congregation. And I sat in, with David and his band last year, and that was in June. In July, I went back up to David's house in Mount Holly, North Carolina, and we got that same band that was up on this stage together, plus me and my boy Wyatt, wherever Wyatt's at. Where's he at? Oh! I thought you were pointing that way. My boy, that boy takes after his mama. He's got a little smart head again. Anyway, that Wyatt got to play on. He was up here on this stage too, and so we went there, and Wyatt got to be on his first record, and we made a band, and we called the band "The Satan You're Liars." And we recorded for 3 days, and we took the best of the stuff and we put it on the record. And we were gonna put it out. We had some pretty cool opportunities to put it out. But about a month after we recorded it, we found out David had cancer, and it wasn't. It was stage 4, and so. He's been going through the chemotherapy, and so we had already ordered the records, and then we said, you know what, instead of putting this out proper, we're just going to put it out now. And so we just self-released it, and it came out in January, and we have copies of it over here if you want some. But anyway, here's a song from it. I have a friend named Paul Campbell. He's an older gentleman. He made, if y'all see the bolos, sometimes some of y'all have the little bolos. Well, Paul makes them for me. He's a potter. He makes them bolos with an Alabama astronaut thing on it. And he gives them to me to hand out to folks, and I give them away usually when folks buy stuff, at the merch table. I don't know if we got it, but anyway, Paul. Oh, well, Pastor Hamlin has one. Man, looking good, preacher, looking good. Look, that, you know what's wild is I came up here to this man tried to tie my hands up and drag me to the front of his church first time I ever met him. Now we're buddies. Now you're my model for my bolos. Thank you. If you get tired of pastor, just come on out. You be my bolo model. I'm joking. The world needs you a lot more than doing that, more than it needs me being a bolo model. I promise. Plus, I got Austin over here. You can put anything around his neck. Lord, do have mercy. Anyway, the man who makes those is named Paul Campbell. He was at my very first art show. I started painting when I lived in this county down in Middlesboro. I was painting as a means of survival, and that was in about 2006, 2007. And then I started writing my songs. I ended up showing my art for the very first time in 2018 publicly, and this gentleman named Paul Campbell, his wife was Lorraine, and she's the dean of libraries at the University of South Alabama. They came to my show and they bought a bunch of my art. And now, if I were to pass away in an untimely death, y'all call up Paul, because Paul's got about 200 pieces of my artwork at his house. They've been some of my biggest patrons of my visual art. Anyway, the first time we met, he reached out to shake my hand, and I'd never seen him before in my life. I reached out to shake his hand. He had a tattoo of a cross right here, but it wasn't just any cross. It was the cross as found on the back of Graham Parsons' nudie suit. And I was like, "Is that the cross from Graham Parsons' nudie suit?" And he said, "Yeah." I think he was shocked that I knew that. And I was like, "Man, I can tell now we're going to be friends." And we've been good buddies now since 2018. And here's a song I wrote for Paul. It's called "The Gospel According to Paul," but it's Paul open parentheses Campbell close parentheses. I was born a beautiful soul. When I came into this world, I was my mother's firstborn son. She said a miracle. And God moved in my heart just like He did amongst the stars. And that was nothing I identified as spiritual. And then every word I called gave definition to my thoughts. Soon nothing was protected from my inquiry. I started chasing down the meaning of every truth I was believing, wanting God to fit in my vocabulary. Soon thereafter, I discovered a local pastor, and he made perfect sense, just never went too deep. I was at church for the word, or at least the potlucks and the girls. And through my youth, I went there at least 3 times a week. And then I went to Bible school, and I started preaching when I got through, till I grew up and left it all behind. silence to myself. These songs are what is left, and I try to stay creative with an open mind. Now the world keeps spinning faster, and I'm just getting older, and the less I think I know about anything. But I recall as a child when God was moving in the stars, and how I wish I could get back to those sweet dreams. 'Cause this world is a real dark place, and you know I've struggled with my faith. I'd get on back to church, but I don't feel the need. 'Cause I feel God in the trees, hear Him in the passing breeze, and I see Him on the face of little babies. Now I've got a friend named Paul, and on his arm is tattooed a cross, and it's the cross from Graham Parsons' nudie suit. And it may not be scripture, but it paints the fairest picture of living as a seeker in pursuit of the truth. See, Graham was living in Sin City, and he fought it till the day that it beat him even as he sang, I like the Christian life. And as his ashes rose from the Joshua trees, I pray God finds you and me and Paul, and grants us eternal life.
Y'all give it up for Leslie Smith.
Here's a new song I wrote, and this one's too crazy to even have anybody try to play with. I took my daughter Abby to see the Bob Dylan movie when it came out, and I got so moved by seeing Bob Dylan singing to Woody Guthrie that it was just, I don't know, I just thought that was such a powerful thing, you know, because at the end of the day, all of us that are creating art are just standing on tops of other people that was creating art before us, and I happen to fall in that vein, and those guys were heroes of mine, and seeing the respect and the homage being paid. Then I got to thinking about talking blues, and how Bob Dylan had talking blues because Woody Guthrie had talking blues, and Townes Van Zandt had talking blues because Bob Dylan had talking blues, because Woody Guthrie had talking blues. And it just keeps on going like that. And I'm sure Woody Guthrie had talking blues because somebody else had talking blues before him. And so I was like, I ain't got no talking blues. So the day after I saw the Bob Dylan movie, I wrote this song. Most of y'all know I paint. A lot of times I paint chickens. And people ask me, why you paint the chickens? And I put little slogans on there. Sometimes I say, you don't ever stare into the eyes of a chicken. And it's really good advice. And people ask me, why do I put that on there? But it's too long of a thing to explain at the merch table. So I wrote this song called The Talking Never Staring in the Eyes of a Chicken Blues. You ready, preacher?
I'm ready.
Okay. Don't kick me out, man.
This song speaks to me.
This water running down. This is a long song. Oh, Lord. I was in East Tennessee just passing through, my guitar in tow. Feeling pretty blue, I was getting kind of car sick and homesick too. My head was pounding, but I was pushing through. See, I was 3 weeks into the tour of a kind where you don't make no money, there ain't no sense in trying. I was playing for exposure, I guess, wondering how many people died from stuff like that. But I was born a folk singer way down in my heart, and I ain't doing it for money, and I ain't about to start. And like most artists, I'm prone to get depressed, and poverty don't help you out of stuff like that. Depression, that is. So when I woke up that morning, I was down and broke. I gassed up my car and I hit the back roads. It was just 4 hours to my next show, so I had time to kill. I was driving slow when I came upon a flea market stand. And I ain't never been the kind of man that'll pass one up at them Appalachian hills where you can find weird stuff at pretty good deals. There was produce, antiques, and buffalo hides, and apple butter, and mason jars, and welding supplies. An old couch like my granny owned, broken fax machines, and orange traffic cones, and Indian beads, and homemade knives, even a livestock section to my surprise. There were pigs, ducks, and a billy goat, and there were cages full of chickens stacked in rows. Well, now me and my wife, we started out in the country, and for that, my friend, we sure feel lucky, because we both got a love for gardens and such, and chickens always held a special place in our hearts, in our stomachs. And then the flea market man said, "Can I help you with something?" I said, "No, buddy, I'm just looking. I'm out here on the road burning time. I'm going to look at your chickens now, if you don't mind." There were Dominickers, Orpingtons, and Wyandottes, and Rhode Island Reds, and Plymouth Rocks, and Golden Comets, and White Leghorns, Jersey Giants, Australorps, and Delawares, Cornish, Naked Necks, and German Creepers, and Speckled Sussex, and Silkies, Brahmas, and California Greys, Coachies, and Bannies, and Golden Cascades. Well, some are Aracanas, Easter Eggers, Blue Illusions, and Barn Velders, Black Stars, Amber Links, and Issa Browns, and my favorite of all was the Mystic Morans. I said, "Damn, that is quite the assortment." Now let me be clear, I gotta get this straight. The story demands you get my mental state. See, I'll stand behind the mic, I'll wear a big grin, but that ain't always the fairest picture of what's happening within. See, I've been making it now as a troubadour. But lately I've been wondering what all the hell for. Yeah, I'm chasing the ghost of Woody and Towns, but what would I do if I finally tracked them down? And I've had a habit since I was a kid of jumping into something and running right up to the edge, and by the time I was old enough to see this pattern, it was too late for me to do that much about it. And I can take a thought running through my head, and I'll think it till it about thinks me dead, and I'll make a monster of about anything. If I let my brain get up and get away from me, and sometimes the road, it'll put me in a trance, and it'll bring out my demons and make me watch them dance. And by the time I get back straight in my mind, I noticed a couple days done passed by. I'm sorry, I ain't trying to overshare and all. It's just part of the story. Well, the flea market man, I was staring at the chickens, adoring the feathers, putting his fingers in cages. I was trying to pet them. I was studying the way they moved around, the way they held themselves, all their different sounds. I laughed at the roosters, interacting with the hens. It was a soap opera in each and every pen. And then it dawned on me, and I said, "Whoa, would you look at the variations in a rooster's crow?" Some a cock-a-doodle-do, some a cock-a-doodle-don't, some a cock-a-doodle however the hell they want. And some will sound a grunt, some sound a yell, some sound like they're dying, some will give you a scare. And now the the flea market man, he had a nice southern drawl, so we were shooting the shit and making small talk. He asked if I'd ever raised any birds on my own. I said, yeah, but not since I've been out on the road. He said, my boy plays the banjo. He's pretty good too. What kind of music is it that you do? I said I play the kind of songs that a leghorn would play if he was trying to get the Dominic or him to lay. Some eggs, that is. There we go. Lord, do have mercy. This is the longest thing ever been written. The flea market man looked at me like I was stupid. He must have thought I was crazy or drugged and loopy. What made me say it, I still don't know it. It made perfect sense to be in the moment. And maybe my thinking of singing chickens stems from my early childhood obsession with a rooster that sang the Roger Miller tune in the Disney movie, the Robin Hood cartoon. I thought, what if that rooster laid down his guitar and joined Robin Hood and taken up arms? He could have been a spark in the People's Rebellion that wrangled back the freedom from the Nottingham sheriff. And just about the time the thought became clear, I became convicted of my need to look in the mirror, because right now the robbing poor just to give to the rich, and all I can do is sit around here singing about it. Oh, oodle lolly, golly, what have I become? See what I'm saying? Once my mind gets loose, I'll turn a thread till it becomes a noose. So I took a deep breath of that chicken shit air. I slowly exhaled, running fingers through my hair, and then the flea market man walked away real awkward at me. You know I never know when to quit talking. I yelled, don't you want a leghorn singing the hens? Trying to get my laying egg just for him, but he ignored me and walked on about. I said, God, please help me learn to shut my mouth. I tried to play it off. I faked a yawn. I put my phone to my ear, acting like somebody called. And then I turned around on nonchalant, and I locked eyes with a golden lace wine dot. I was mesmerized by his eyes so red. It might sound funny, but it was getting to my head because he was staring at me, so I stared right back at him. Was he sizing me up, or was he even aware? You know, I thought I saw a universe in his eyes. Then I wondered what was going on just behind. I said, how's the world look through those red eyes? Does he even understand the